Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D-Generation X proudly brings to you the hardcore conspiracy theory champion of the world, the badass, Mr. Ogre. Well, you don't have to say it, Mr., but if you're on my bad side, I'd suggest it. Now, seriously, so we're going to jump right into this. Obviously, we've been pounding a lot of information into the mainstream today on my channel. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into one of my favorites. Sort of. Maybe that's the wrong word, but one of my favorite conspiracies to expose. How about that? And obviously that's Boston. We're going to revisit that for a moment. Now, if you want to see a conspiracy video on Boston, there's a bunch of them, man. Go search up here, and maybe there might be some down here, or depending on where you are, on whether you're on mobile or the computer, you may have some over there on the right side of the screen. So with that being said, we're going to keep this pretty simple. I really just want to talk about two things that I don't think people even remotely really ever bring up, and especially the smoking gun I'm going to end with. You're going to like the smoking gun. Absolutely amazing detective work on my side. Maybe it's not even detective work. It's just fucking thinking out loud, thinking to myself, thinking outside the box. With that being said, I've got a ton of Boston videos already on my channel, so I'm not going to cover anything that I already have. I'm going to keep this pretty simple today as far as it goes to Boston. We're going to talk about two things: leaks that happened after Boston, and my smoking gun here at the end. I got it right here. Yeah, so let's see. Okay, so here are some leaks, all that came out less than 2 months after Boston Marathon bombing had happened. Okay, the first one was Benghazi whistleblowers. You go back and just search Benghazi whistleblowers, you'll see that that was shortly after March of 2015 when the bombing had happened. The next thing that came out was the IRS scandal. And after that, there was an Associated Press probe that went wrong. And then James Rosen from Fox News was having some issues with the probe into him. And then we found out that there was some IRS spending that had gone way out of fucking control. Like I said, all this stuff is clearly researchable. That's why I'm giving you these key terms really quick. Let's see, what's the next one? Oh, yeah. Funny Verizon phone records. Not that I work for them or anything. But Verizon phone records, BS came out about that. That you probably would remember mostly from the Edward Snowden info drops there. Then the big thing came out. It was Sprint and AT&T were also doing all this stuff with the metadata and whatnot. And then, Edward Snowden goes a little further, drops even more information. And so now you have another leak. And remember, each one of these 10 things that I'm describing to, or excuse me, 9 things, are all leaks that happened to distract you from Boston. Think about that. If they wanted to distract you from Boston, why would that be? Because obviously something happened that they didn't want you to know about, and I go into great detail on my channel in the Boston Marathon bombing chronicles. Anyways, so then the last one is the big internet giants and your data. Most of this stuff was kind of, this last half of the list was basically Edward Snowden leaks. But I'm going to run through the list one more time. So number 1, Benghazi whistleblowers. Number 2, the IRS scandal with planted questions. Number 3, the Associated Press probe. Number 4, the James Rosen probe from Fox News. Number 5, IRS spending. That story came out in 2015. Verizon phone records. Number 7, Sprint and AT&T also leaked that this was happening with them. And then number 8 was a snooping into our personal credit and data, credit card data, through American Express, this, that, basically all the Edward Snowden shit. And then number 9, the 10 internet giants also. Now, I want you to know that this was a 2-week period that all of these leaks came out in, okay? And this was less than 2 months later after the Boston Marathon bombing. They're connected. I'm connecting them here. I connected them back then. That being said, I also made a note here. So it says Boston News. So because I wrote this back in 2015, this is part of my Boston Marathon bombing chronicles videos that I'm going into in complete detail. I have not finished those. I still have plenty of them to go through. And the note that I made at the time in 2015 was Boston News is suppressed by White House and Obama scandals and 9 major leaks in 2 weeks. Leads me to believe that there may be a coup of some sort behind closed doors. I got the feeling that someone wants Obama impeached and will continue to leak info until something finally outrages the public enough to impeach Captain Power Grab. We shall see. Now, that being said, that's just the leaks part. Now, here's this fucking smoking gun when it comes to Boston. I want everybody to just take a moment, sit back, relax, think to yourself about that fateful Tuesday. Now, the bombing happened on Tuesday. Or was it Monday? Now, it happened on Monday. Thursday, they released the photos of Mr. White Hat and Mr. Black Hat, the Jokar brother. Jokar Tsarnaev and his brother. I always forget. I always remember Jokar Tsarnaev's name because he's the one that was found in the boat. The other brother's dead. So we had Mr. White Hat, Mr. Black Hat. Were released photos of on Thursday. By Friday morning, they had been chased all around Boston. One of the brothers had been killed, and as they were chasing the brothers, the cops were telling us stories, and the media was telling us stories about how they were shooting back at the police officers, and how they had more of those fucking kettle bombs, pressure cooker bombs. That's what it was called. Thank God for fucking memory, man. So anyways, they were supposedly throwing, if you remember this, you'll remember being told that they were throwing them out the window of the vehicle as they were being chased, and they were exploding everywhere, all over Boston and Watertown, and I think it was Waterton. Maybe I'm messing up the name of Waterton, the suburb in Boston, that this was all happening. But look, here's the point. So they told you, right? That these assholes are throwing bombs out of the vehicle that you've never seen a witness other than a police officer or a secondhand account from media. Now, remember, when this all happened, all they did, the media networks all fucking camped out on Boylston Street in Boston so they could bring you live coverage of the Boston Marathon bombing incident. Here from Boston. Like they're trying to get a cheap pop. Like, woohoo, we're here in Boston. And the crowd goes, ah. Well, so here's the thing. That whole time, you've seen them on the scene, always close. You saw plenty of footage of the cops that were inspecting the bombing footage from Boylston, and all that good stuff. So why didn't we see that the weekend after the boys had been chased and had been dropping bombs all over the city? How come there weren't any footage of the spots where these bombs that were supposedly thrown at the cops during chase? That's your fucking smoking gun. That's one of your things that lets you know that this is a bunch of bullshit. That they're not telling you the fucking truth. That they're not telling you everything that's happened or happening. And when you look at it, remember, they told you that these bombs thrown out of the vehicle. Not a single person, not a single witness has ever been on TV and said, yeah, man, I seen it. Or, yeah, look, there it is. There's the black mark on the ground. See all the cops over there examining it and trying to get forensic samples and stuff? You didn't see a fucking thing like that. Not one time, not ever. That's your smoking gun. That's the kind of stuff that people need to realize when they watch the media. What are they not saying? What are they saying and then not showing or proving or providing evidence of? This stuff happens all the time. It happened recently in not Boston, excuse me, but New York City in the truck attack. Happened a little before that in Las Vegas. You mean, Las Vegas, that's a funny one. That's another story for another video, which I already plan on doing today. But you can't tell me in Las Vegas that the only picture you got of the fucking suspect is from his Facebook page of him being drunk with all the closed caption televisions that are and television cameras that are in that fucking casino. You can't even walk in the fucking front door. I'm going to save that story for later, but it's just stuff like that. Stuff like that. Little gems like that. Those are your smoking guns. And when people look at you fucking funny, and they're like, oh, you were talking about conspiracy theory, and then you ask them something like, you're like, hey, wait up. They should have had cameras on them in fucking Las Vegas. Or they say, yeah, you know what? There were no burn marks. And I don't remember them ever showing us the bombing sites from that chase. Think on it, folks. As always, thank you so very much for tuning into the Ogarstyle channel. I get so heated when it comes to Boston, so I have seriously got to go sit down, shut the fuck up, and have a fucking Coke for a minute, and upload a couple of videos while I do so. So I'll talk to you guys soon again, and thanks for tuning in.